LeFleur, the French explorer who settled Jackson, Mississippi, the Trustmark Tour LeFleur, presented by the U.S. Postal Service, is the second round of the season-long Tour of America. This two-day event begins in the scenic streets of downtown Jackson with the Bud Light Criterium. Amid the beautiful landmark buildings, America's top cyclists will do battle in the most American of cycling events, the Criterium, a short course featuring high speeds, dangerous turns, and lots of sprinting. Day 2 takes the field to Madison, Mississippi, and the Powerade Road Race. This 135-mile event in the rolling wooded countryside is the second longest road race in North America and will favor the classic road riders, cyclists with the power to break away on the hills. In the end, the Trustmark Tour LeFleur overall champion will be determined by a point system of the Saturn Teamwork Challenge. As always, the favorites are the crack aces of America's premier domestic program, the Saturn team, led by Norman Alvis. But hot on their heels will be the up-and-coming Mercury team, made up with two sprinters, Gord Fraser and Julian Dean, and road specialists John Peters and Thurlow Rogers. Today, it's the Trustmark Tour LeFleur, presented by the U.S. Postal Service, the second round of the Tour of America. Hello and welcome to the 5th annual running of the Trustmark Tour LeFleur, sponsored by the U.S. Postal Service. I'm Paul Show, and alongside me, as always, Davis Phinney, my co-commentator. And Davis, this event certainly brings out the rivalry between the US-based teams.
It does, with Saturn and Mercury most especially prevalent at the top of the results chart this year. Mercury, a new team. Saturn, the old man on the block. They've had a bit of trouble this spring, and Mercury has really cleaned up.
It is strange, though, because Mercury is a new team around. It's very difficult to bring a blend of riders together and have so much success so quickly.
Well, you know, Mercury has been very smart in their acquisition of riders. They have two great veterans, Thurlow Rogers and Roy Nickman, men who I used to race against. They have a lot of experience. They have a few gray hairs, Thurlow more than a few. But they have some good, strong young riders, most especially Julian Dean and Gord Fraser. Now, both of those riders are committed, they're good sprinters, and they're hungry.
And the great thing about the Tour LeFleur is the mix of racing, because there's a short, fast Criterium circuit, followed by a 135-mile road race.
The 135-mile race is the second longest event in the United States through the season. Now, it's fairly early in the season, so we'll see who has the legs for the distance.
Certainly will, but the action starts with a very fast and rapid Criterium race around the streets of Jackson, Mississippi. All of the riders on the start line facing 55 laps and a 50-mile course here, and it's going to be a very difficult course as well. 8 laps and around about 1¼ hours of racing. The Mercury team with their top man, Julian Dean, the man who this year has really come on in leaps and bounds. Davis, this is a very difficult circuit for these riders to face, especially with the repetitive corners as we look here at Patrick Ike.
Well, Paul, this is a classic American Criterium circuit. Mike McCarthy there talking to the United States Postal Service representative. The Masters team here, the rest of the team in Europe. The strength of the United States Postal Service team is not always evident in America. To see them fully, you need to travel to the European arena, where most of the team and their energies are focused. Over the past season, they have developed into true contenders at the highest level of the sport.
It's a team that's, has been developing. And we've developed to a point where now we made it to the Tour de France last year. This year we're starting the season guaranteed to be in the Tour de France. So it's a team that's been moving up.
This spring, while riding well in the tough one-day events known as the Classics, the team has been tested by the recent absence of leader Lance Armstrong, whose return to racing after a successful fight against cancer is tentatively on hold, as he is currently home in Austin.
What Lance went through was so tough, and no one knows except Lance. And he went through a lot, and it's incredible that he came back and did what he did. So I believe that he's already, had a successful comeback.
Still, this team knows its strengths and is in gear, focused towards the top.
Certainly difficult to be competitive on all fronts. Jonathan Vaughters of the United States Postal Service leading the Tour of America at the moment, but unable to defend his lead. He's across the waters in Europe, flying the flag over there. All of these riders pulling away for the first of these 55 laps. And Davis, the first lap of a Criterium is always a very nervous one.
Obviously, being at the front, the best place to be in a bike race, most especially in a Criterium. Already 2 riders off the front.
Amazing to see. All of these moves so far have been covered by the Mercury team. They're putting a man up there all of the time.
Mercury seemingly holding all the cards here. Nice shot of the halfway point on the course where the 2 leaders have come through just about half lap up on the rest of the field. Shackley in front, Eric Wahlberg, John Peters from Mercury falling through, the Criterium underway.
The Trustmark Tour LeFleur, presented by the US Postal Service, brought to you by Trustmark. We earn your trust every day. By the US Postal Service. We deliver for you. By Saturn, a different kind of company, a different kind of car. By Bud Light, the #1 light beer in America. And by Powerade, the thirst quencher. Welcome back to the Trustmark Tour LeFleur, presented by the US Postal Service. And already the Bud Light Criterium 55 laps around Jackson underway, and straight away 2 leaders out ahead of the race.
Those 2 leaders, Paul, being chased rather strongly by the Navigators squad up front. Many of the other teams there, but always the ever-present Mercury as they ride through downtown Jackson. Really a wonderful place for a bike race. Jackson, Mississippi, this race 5 years running, and the crowd really enjoying it. A lot of history here.
Named for Andrew Jackson, the gentleman statesman soldier who became America's first populist president, Jackson is a beautiful city filled with history and potential. This is the state capital of Mississippi, and its downtown boasts a landmark historic district. The governor's mansion, which stands at the finish line of the Bud Light Criterium, is an exceptional example of neoclassical architecture, and it's open to the public. Jackson also has a world-class art museum and ballet company. But Jackson isn't just about celebrating the past. The city, home to a burgeoning communications industry, is fast-growing and the economic engine that drives the region.
And right in front of the governor's mansion here, they're handing out lemonade and cookies. This event, very popular, Paul. It's a fundraiser for the Blair Batson Hospital for Children. They've raised over $100,000 in the 5-year history of this event. These 2 riders doing their all to enrich themselves, getting off in front of this group, but not getting the distance that they might need, and the Oil Me team calling up the hand, bringing up the squad, trying to get themselves back in the race.
Also getting a lot of help from Team Saturn as well, always ready to come to the front and put the pressure on. In second position there, the former world champion Mike McCarthy, looking very comfortable indeed. But Davis, this event really, normally you would expect the number of corners to provoke breakaways, but the last 3 years it's always come down to a sprint, and the last 3 years has always been an Englishman, Malcolm Elliott.
And Malcolm Elliott, I guess unfortunate for some because he was such a flashy, great rider for the States. He's retired now, but not unfortunate for many of the guys in this field who now have an opportunity to win. And Saturn, of course, looking for Mike McCarthy, probably their strongest sprinter in this event today, likely to put him in position, but he needs to get back in front, and these 2 riders not giving way yet.
The pressure on at the back of the main field. You can see still Team Saturn at the front trying to close it all down. That's one of the McCormack brothers up there, as well as Norman Alvis, who's never very far away when it comes to doing a lot of work for the team, because these men realize if they can bring it all back, McCormack has got a great sprint and he could unleash it towards the finish of this event this afternoon, and that would be good for him.
And Norm Alvis, winner of the Tour America Series last year, he always has a slow start to the season, doesn't mind doing the work for the team at this point, but looks forward to the summer when his form comes around and everyone works for him. Long, thin line, stretched out, speed increasing. The reason this race doesn't break up, Paul, the corner's very, very fast. It's relatively wide here. You can carry the speed. It is an uphill finish, though, a little bit tricky.
In fact, the pressure there has forced another small group to go clear, and a lot of very big favourites in there. Julian Dean, I caught sight of. Mike McCarthy's in there as well, and this could be the decision, and it may well be that this afternoon in the Tour LeFleur there is going to be a breakaway.
And you have all of the dominant teams up there, and that's what's important for success in this kind of a field. 2 strong riders from each of Mercury, from Navigators, Shackley in there as well. So everyone represented, and that's the face of Julian Dean just passing through. He is the best sprinter out there.
You can see the big field there all the way across these boulevards going down the far side of the figure 8, and here is the leading group of riders, and it looks as if 1 or 2 other riders have tagged on to the back there, a chance for them just to know exactly how far ahead they are of the main field. This is the main field. Now who's going to chase? All the big teams are represented in the front, but Shackley still don't think that they have the right combination.
Well, you know, there's 3 strong sprinters up front. Mike McCarthy is in there as they head towards the line, but Julian Dean, Paul, is pulling it out.
He certainly is. He's opened up a clean gap over the rest of the field there. Julian Dean coming right up through the middle there in the red shorts and yellow jersey of Mercury. This man rode the Olympics in 1996 for New Zealand, but today he's going for the line in the Tour LeFleur. No problem at all for him as he comes across right ahead of Mike McCarthy and Robbie Ventura, who takes 3rd place. And your old teammate back in 5th slot there, Thurlow Rogers, a great ride by him.